Goodness to you, it's Sporty King. And you know I always say goodness. Why? Because I don't know whether you're watching morning, afternoon, or evening. But isn't it great to have good in front of your salutation? Welcome to Glue Wednesday. And while good is in front of your salutation, Wednesday is in the middle of the week and has been for years called Hump Day. Yet, as you know, I've decided that Wednesday is the middle of a traditional 7-day week, regardless of when you work, and I have therefore declared it the day that keeps the week beginning and the week end together, thus the glue. So we don't have to hump. We want to find ways to keep it together. It's the glue and the reminder that GLUE, God's love undoes everything. Not that his love will tear things apart, yet that his love will undo the tears of sadness to brighten your day. My guiding scripture today will be Genesis 22:5. Stay here with the donkey, Abraham told the young men. The boy and I will travel a little farther. We will worship there, and then we will come right back. With this, I'll deliver today's message, my tribute to my MLK. You know, today marks the 19th anniversary of my mother, Mary Louise King, MLK, exhaling her last breath at 3 o'clock in the morning. I call it exhaling because I would experience what I call the gift of a testimonious curse. Or is it the curse of a testimonious gift? Or is it irrelevant? Because it is God's will. And you will die. All we should question is, will you live? That's a small poem about being the child chosen to hear my mother's last words. I remember thinking for a second that she was talking to me. I now smile, knowing that she was talking to God as she answered his call. I created a poem about it and wrote about it as the lead poem in my book, Stuff Happens. That chapter is called Dealing with Life. So I decided to read an excerpt from the book, starting with day 5 of her being admitted into the hospital and the lessons I believe and still share. By Wednesday, the hospital staff had gotten used to us and appreciated the personable patient Leah was showing herself to be. We called her Leah. While we knew how badly she wanted to snap her finger and get out of that bed. I remember sitting in the room with her and completing my first ever newspaper crossword puzzle. Surely her brilliance was transferring to me. And when she was away, we would converse like old times, with me talking a little bit more about my plans for business and life. I proudly shared how this was now my second time seeing her in the hospital, something none of my siblings could claim. When I was 7, she was in the maternity ward giving birth to my oldest younger brother, Orlando, who we called Landon. I had run into the wall playing at home, and Aunt Gloria had to take me to the hospital to get stitches. Leah waved to me from the window. I was the first to ever see her in the hospital. Though I was born the second of 8 children, I was now the oldest, and the doctors turned to me first for questions, updates, and options. Meanwhile, my 2 youngest brothers, Travis and Hassan, were now the last to see Leah in the hospital, and were somewhat stunned. They had never seen her needing to be helped. When Travis mentioned that to me, the split in our generations dawned on me. We were only 12 years apart, yet how different our experiences of being raised by the same source. You see, I met my mother in her 20s, during a time where she was still very social while focused on her responsibility to raise 3 kids as a single parent. My father, Ricky, was a part of my life, but he no longer lived with us. He and Leah had been a strong couple, but eventually that was exactly why they couldn't stay together. They were too strong for one another. 2 chiefs, no Indians. However, they remained good friends, and I learned a lot about being a man from their friendship. In fact, one of the biggest lessons I learned is that men and women can be friends. And that can easily be traced back to your parents' relationship. Watching a secure or insecure relationship impacts our belief system. Besides my father, I had 3 other men whom my mother called friends, who shaped this aspect of my personality. Leah called Hank, Joe, and Howard her brothers. They were all married, and each had a wife that Leah considered a friend as well, and Ricky knew them all. Point blank and cut to the chase, they were really friends who were like brothers. My mother was not having us call any of these men uncle in public, yet secretly sleeping with them on the side. Living that type of lie has crippled the psychological development of many a young man and woman. And both of my parents were major non-supporters of lying. Ricky used to say, "You lie to those you fear, and you should fear no man." Now that's a tough one to live by, and I've told my share of lies. But it's a principle of manhood that I value and one that I've embraced as a testament to my right to call myself a man. How do you define listening? Sometimes we don't take enough time to do that. It is my firm belief that each of us must spend ample time putting our personal concerns as primary to living our lives and purpose in life. Focus, F-O-C-U-S, finding ourselves creates unlimited success. Focus on you and let others come into focus. It doesn't eliminate other people. It makes it more clear who they represent in your life and how you should use one another. While my mother was in the hospital, as much as her health was my concern, I had to focus on my well-being, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Because my role in my family was taking on new shape as the doctor presented options that shifted the responsibility in our parent-child relationship. I had to flash back to how comforting it had always been for me to see Leah's face, to be that comfort for her, as well as my sister and brothers during this opening stage of denial we were experiencing through her mortality. And I had to realize that my younger brothers had met her in her 30s, during a time where she was more settled and understood who she was. Though we had separate fathers, we have never used the term step or half with my 5 younger brothers, nor was their father addressed as our stepfather. And on that Wednesday, as Leah's hospital stay extended, my 14-year-old niece, Nashay, texted to say she had a half day in school and was on her way to the hospital to see her grandma. As it turned out, Leah was having one of her more painful days and did not feel up to the potentially emotional visit. Meanwhile, knowing it wouldn't be long before my sister's turn to be on watch duty, I decided to meet Nashay at the hospital entrance. I explained Leah's preference to not see her and so offered to take her to lunch. In my mind, thinking this would be a good way to spend quality time with her, rather than making her feel like she wasn't old enough to be a part of the experience. How often do we make that mistake, thinking we need to shield a child or someone from family trauma? In many cases, we are putting up a shield that represents a barrier that tells them how weak they are and denies that they have the right to experience the truth. Instead, they must stand behind the bubble of false protection and feel what we prescribe. Be honest with children so that they can be honest about what they're experiencing. Now, Leah always reminded us that there was only one day that we were born, and thus every year what we really did was celebrate the anniversary of that date. So to this day, I wish people a happy birth date anniversary. And we now do an annual cookout commemorating hers. Because she had been considered the mother of the block, having raised friends and children of friends, We get a huge turnout of generations from age 0 to 80 plus, including her surviving friends. We always stop for a tribute of prayer and laughter for how we all come together for this woman's legacy. In fact, before her death, there was one night in the hospital where 3 of my home sisters, Carolyn, Jeanette, and Ronnie, came up from North and South Carolina. Their visit coincided with dinner time, and Leah instructed that they each take a turn feeding her, as she had fed each of them at one time or another in their lives. Imagine 3 grown women in their 40s, perked up with excitement at the prospect of fulfilling that direction. And in your imagination, don't picture anything but an orderly, almost choreographed rotation of their handing the spoon or fork to the next person. Ladies and gentlemen, don't give up. Don't give lip service to respecting your elders. Have that flashback of joy where you can only imagine what your ancestors went through to feed you and your spirit. Recognize that the lack of technology profiled a higher sense of responsibility, compassion, and creativity to get you in position. And there was another night when she had been moved to ICU, and I was on the first shift for overnight watch. Right now, I can remember several nights in my life where I've been exhausted and couldn't wait for my head to hit the pillow. Yet that night, I never felt the urge to sleep. I calmly sat at my post to monitor her breathing and help her adjust to any discomfort. She admitted that she was scared, later fully explaining the fear of having the mask put over her face for breathing. Still, she was able to sleep, and I was able to keep watch. My most memorable moment came that night when I saw Leah's faith kick into autopilot. She had a small Bible in her left hand. During the night, when she had managed to adjust to her surroundings and drift into a peaceful sleep, I noticed and tested her ironclad grip on her Bible. And though the look on her face did not say confident, I was able to see confident. And that's not a typo. She had always known whose hands she was in, and had always taught us to have that steadfast belief in God. Watching her hold on to it gave me new courage. I would need that courage. And I was able to find and use it. And ladies and gentlemen, there's something that you've been through or are going through that has needed or will need you to be stronger than you thought possible. In my book, I call it stuff. And that's really what it is. Situations that unleash our focus and faith. Thanks for joining me for another great year of Glue. God's love undoes everything. Not that his love will tear things apart, yet that his love will undo the tears of sadness to brighten your day. And what others have torn apart, God will handle your stuff as he helps you hold on and put it back together. Not hung, but find ways to keep it together. Be sure to keep it together by checking out my store where you can purchase Stuff Happens or any of my inspirational books. Download free inspirational posters or sign up for my free monthly Golden Brick Road. I'm Sporty King, and this has been your Blue Wednesday. Have a wonderful rest of the week.